Part 2. The game continues. It had been months since that night in the woods, but the nightmares never left me. Every creak of my apartment floor, every shadow on the wall, felt like a threat. But I told myself it was over. He was locked away now, rotting in a maximum security prison, and I was free, or so I thought. In the dark recesses of that prison, the man who hunted me wasn't just biding his time. He was planning. He didn't see the bars around him as a cage, but as a test. Every waking moment was spent perfecting his next move, preparing for the day he'd get out. His obsession with me was relentless. He pored over blueprints of my life, my routines, my weaknesses. Every meal he ate, every breath he took, was filled with one thought. Rex will pay. He made connections, bribed guards, manipulated inmates, and soon the prison wasn't holding him. It was harboring him. And then, one morning I saw it on the news. Convicted killer escapes maximum security prison in a daring, violent breakout. Authorities warn he is armed and extremely dangerous. My heart dropped into my stomach. I couldn't breathe. I knew it was him. I knew he was coming for me. The next few days were a blur of paranoia. I barricaded my doors, installed cameras, barely slept. Every knock, every sound outside made me jump. But nothing prepared me for what happened next. It started small. A single red rose left on my doorstep, tied with a black ribbon. Then my phone buzzed with a text. "Did you miss me, Rex?" I smashed the phone against the wall in a panic, but it didn't matter. Wherever I turned, he was there. My apartment was no longer a refuge. It was a trap, and I was the prey. One night, the power went out. The silence was suffocating, and the darkness pressed in around me like a living thing. I grabbed a flashlight and a kitchen knife, my hands trembling. That's when I saw it. Scrawled on my living room wall in dripping red paint. "You should have killed me when you had the chance." The floor creaked behind me. I spun around, flashlight trembling, but there was nothing there, just the oppressive silence. My heart thundered as I backed into the corner of the room, the knife shaking in my hand. And then he struck. He didn't come from the shadows. He was the shadows. He moved like a predator, silent and deliberate. One moment I was alone, and the next he was on me, driving me to the floor. I fought like a man possessed, but he was stronger, fueled by rage and obsession. The knife clattered out of my hand as he slammed me against the wall. His mask was gone now, and for the first time, I saw the face of the man who had haunted my nightmares. His eyes were cold, dead, and yet burning with hatred. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His message was clear. This was the end. He pulled a garrote wire from his pocket and looped it around my neck, pulling tight. The world blurred as I gasped for air, clawing at the wire, my vision darkening. But something inside me refused to give up. With the last of my strength, I grabbed a shard of glass from the broken window and drove it into his thigh. He howled in pain, the wire loosening just enough for me to breathe. I stumbled to my feet, blood dripping from my neck, and lunged for the knife. He was on me again in seconds, but this time, I was ready. I plunged the blade into his shoulder, twisting it with a scream of desperation. He collapsed, but I didn't stop. I kept stabbing over and over until his body stopped moving. I staggered back, covered in blood, gasping for air. The apartment was a wreck, the walls smeared with blood and chaos. I didn't wait for the cops this time. I fled into the night, leaving everything behind. But as I ran, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Because in the end, it wasn't about surviving him. It was about surviving myself.
Thank you guys for watching. For more terror story like this, make sure to subscribe.